We're diving into the Muslim world once again and taking a look at the top 10 Muslim armies in the entire world. And in this video, we're gonna see how they compare when you stack them side by side with each other. Hey, what's happening everybody? My name is Leroy Kenton and thanks for tuning in to another episode of FTD Facts. Now, just giving you the heads up, this episode isn't going to be ranked in any particular order. These are just a group of the top 10 most powerful Muslim armies, okay? And I'm also basing this episode mainly just on their land power. Now, if this is your first time here to FTD Facts, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as that bell notification, because when we post new episodes, you'll be notified and you won't miss any episodes coming up like this. And for those of you who are veterans here to FTD Facts, as well as all you new faces as well, just go ahead and hit that like button on this episode. If you love learning about the military, love learning about the different countries and cultures all around the world, that's how we do it here on FTD Facts. But let's jump into this episode, and now the first nation I'm going to start off with is Turkey. When it comes to the Turkish army, sources trace the army's foundation back to the Modu Chanyu of the Xiongnu Empire in 209 BC. But of course, modern history of the army began after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Now, numbers as recent as 2015 report that the Turkish army, along with the rest of the entire Turkish military, have seen a huge growth in their personnel strength, and these numbers are comparable to their strength back in the 2000s. A big contributing factor for this type of growth is the destabilization of Syria as well as Iraq. Now, the Turkish army's motto is peace at home, peace in the world. Turkey's total combat tanks are 3,200, and they have a total of 9,500 armored fighting vehicles. Their self-propelled artillery sit at a total of 1,120, and they have 1,272 towed artillery and 350 rocket projectors. The next nation's army I'm looking at is the nation of Pakistan. So the Pakistan army is a volunteer service, and their primary objective, as well as its constitutional mission, is to really just make sure that the national security and the national unity of Pakistan is really kept in check. It conducts a lot of humanitarian rescue operations at home, as well as participates in a lot of peacekeeping missions which are mandated by the United Nations overseas. Now, the two main branches of the army are the combat arms and the administrative services. All of them consist of several different branches that include army officers, junior commissioned officers, as well as other enlisted personnel. Their motto is a follower of none but Allah, the fear of Allah, strive for Allah. Pakistan's army has 2,200 combat tanks, 3,665 armored fighting vehicles, 429 self-propelled artillery. Their towed artillery count is 1,226, and they have 150 rocket projectors in their possession. The next nation to look at is Egypt. So the Egyptian army is the largest service branch within the Egyptian Armed Forces. The Egyptian Armed Forces Chief of Staff's office is in Cairo, and he's the Chief of Staff of the entire army. There's 3 command and control headquarters and 9 command and control field headquarters, and they're directed from the Chief of Staff's office. The most notable engagements of the Egyptian army, these all happened in the 20th century, and they were Egypt's 5 wars with Israel in 1948, 1956, 1967, 1967 to 1970, and also in 1973. The motto of the Egyptian army is, "We painted the face of our nation on our hearts." They have a total of 2,160 combat tanks. Their armored fighting vehicles sit at a total of 5,735. Their self-propelled artillery count is 1,000 even. Their towed artillery, however, is 2,189, and they have 1,100 rocket projectors. Next up, we have Indonesia. So the Indonesian army is composed of a headquarters as well as 15 military region commands and a strategic reserve command called Kostrad, which is a special forces command, as well as a special forces command Kopassus, and several other units. There are today 5 types of infantry battalions in the Indonesian army, and those are the Power Raider Infantry Battalion, the Mechanized Raider Infantry Battalion, the Raider Infantry Battalion, the Mechanized Infantry Battalion, and the Infantry Battalion. Their motto is unmatchable bird with noble goal. holds. Their combat tanks sit at a total of 315. Their armored fighting vehicles total 1,300. Now their self-propelled artillery are at 141, their towed artillery 356, and they have 36 rocket projectors. The army of the country of Iran is up next. Now the Iranian army is also known as the Artesh. Now Artesh has its own joint staff, which coordinates its 4 separate service branches, which are the ground forces, the air forces, the navy, and the air defense forces. Their headquarters are in Tehran, Iran, and the Iranian army has fought 2 major invasions in modern era. The first one was back in 1941, and this invasion was by the Soviet and the British forces during the time of World War II. The second was in 1980, and that was the Iraqi invasion, which lasted almost 8 years. Their motto is, "And our soldiers, they verily would be the victors." Getting down to the specifics, when we look at their combat tanks, they have 1,634, they have 2,345 armored fighting vehicles, 570 self-propelled artillery, 2,128 towed artillery, and 1,900 rocket projectors. Yeah, they're packing a lot when it comes to the rockets. So we're about halfway in this episode, and I think it's just a great time to let you know about our military playlist as well as our playlist about Islam, because this is what this video is about. So I have a link to a playlist of videos just about the military, the army, navy, special forces, all of that. You'll find a lot about the different countries around our world and see how they run their military and learn about their military power and how they're set up. Then the next playlist is videos just dedicated to the religion of Islam. You'll learn a lot more about the history, a lot more about the beliefs and the differentiations between the different branches of Islam, why the branches of Islam exist, things like that. So I highly recommend that playlist as well. So I'll have 2 links below in the video description. I'll also link to them in the card section of this episode. And for those of you who don't want to click away from this episode just yet, which I don't recommend doing, finish this one first, I'll have the playlist linked to the end of the episode at the end screen. Okay, moving on to the next country is Saudi Arabia. So the Saudi Arabian army is the largest branch of the Saudi Arabian armed forces. Now, I didn't really find a motto for the Saudi Arabian army, but I did find a motto for Saudi Arabia as a country, and it is, "There is no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God." The Saudi army has been active since 1745, and that was when it was an independent service arm. But of course, it's now been an official branch of the armed forces since 1902. And in the year 2000, the Saudi Arabian government, they spent billions of dollars to expand Saudi's forces, including their army, of course. But unfortunately, there's a lot of modern equipment that they had to learn and really introduce into their army. And a lot of the equipment is still not properly understood or even used to this day. Nevertheless, the Saudis have a very powerful army. They have 1,062 combat tanks, 11,100 armored fighting vehicles. Their self-propelled artillery totals 705. Their towed artillery is at 1,818, and their rocket projectors sit at 122. The next country in this list is Algeria. So the Algerian army includes 2 armored and 3 mechanized divisions. Land Forces Command is really responsible for organizing and preparing the land forces so as to ensure the defense of the national land space in cooperation with the other forces in Algeria. Now, the organization of Algeria's land forces is made up of a central command, military and operational sectors, big units, and autonomous units, as well as you'll find training institutions. Now, a lot of their equipment was provided by Russia and various other countries. And the motto for Algeria as a nation is by the people and for the people. Their combat tanks sit at a total of 2,475. They have 6,900 armored fighting vehicles. Their self-propelled artillery total at 400. Their towed artillery is at 583, and they have 367 rocket projectors. And then Malaysia is our next nation. So the King of Malaysia is the supreme commander of the Malaysian Armed Forces, and the Malaysian Army currently has 17 corps or regiments. Now, these are grouped into 3 main components: the combat element, then there is the combat support element, and then the support element. So the corps and regiments are currently organized into 5 25 divisions. The first military units in Malaysia can be traced all the way back to March 1861. And then fast forward a bunch of years, the modern Malaysian Army came into existence in January 1933. And their motto is strong and loyal. The Malaysian Army has 74 combat tanks in their possession. They have a total of 1,460 armored fighting vehicles. Their self-propelled artillery sit at 29, and their towed artillery total 211, and they have 54 rocket projectors in their possession. So now coming down to the end of this list, we have Syria. The Syrian army makes up approximately 80% of the combined services. It officially came into existence in 1945 before Syria obtained full independence the following year. And what we know about the Syrian armed forces is that they have really been involved in suppressing a lot of the political movements within Syria. Their motto is Guardians of the Homeland. They have 5,035 combat tanks, 5,170 armored fighting vehicles, 500 self-propelled artillery. Their towed artillery total at 2,210, and they have 700 rocket projectors. So that was your inside look on the top 10 most powerful armies in the Muslim world. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about anything that I shared in this episode. Sound off in the comment section down below. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode. All right, later. Hey everybody, so I have the link to the playlists that I was referring to in the middle of this episode, so enjoy them. You're definitely going to learn a lot, and I highly recommend coming back to FTD Facts every single day. So see you soon, and keep on learning with us every single week.